Kikan Shalom, 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 Kola Yahweh, Bashim Mashiach, Malak Yahushua, Rokakadesh, Tazwan Kapaparnas, Kwan Bar, Kwamish Allah, Habatama Kim Wakwa. Hey man, we back at it with another live stream through the spirit and power of Bashim Yahushua. They send this link out so brothers and sisters can get in here. Let me send this link out. One second. Right. Let's see if we can promote the live, get everything going decently and in order. All right, we live through the spirit. I'm tapping. So here. Okay, so let's hop straight into it. So let's hop straight into it. Praise the Most High. Today's video, as you can tell by the title, is scholarship and learning. Scholarship and learning. Okay, now today's video is going to be a little bit different. As always, I'm always bringing different type of content to the channel. But learning and scholarship. All right, so to start this off, your mindset is important. Your mindset is important, right? The mindset of the truth is more like a revolution versus Christianity, where it's direct harms that are upon you, right? To where as though change is never easy, change is never comfortable, change is never something that just comes by, it just passes by whenever. You follow? Change is always uncomfortable. Change is always something new, right? If I were to change to something else, it's usually something new, especially when it comes to the scriptures that talk about renewing your mind day in and day out, right? As it speaks about Romans 12. You understand that it's something new versus Christianity. It directly harms you. It directly has you feeling docile. It directly has you feeling good. You leave the church and nothing happens, right? So what we're going over today is something completely different, right? And what we're going to be talking about today is the way that you learn, which leads to your scholarship, right? Right, the way that you learn, which leads to being a scholar, right? And I'm not talking about the theologically a scholar, or I'm considering myself a biblical scholar. It's just general scholarship, general being learned men, right? Because I was raised knowing it was cool to be smart, right? It's cool to actually know what you're talking about. It's cool to not just be dumb, right? Scholarship and learning. So there's different ways that you do learn, and this information will come from theories from the so-called white man, right? But when I explain it, you'll see to where as though the way that you learn is different. For example, we'll say, right, I don't learn the way that you learn. I don't learn the way that he learned. I can't. Some brothers, right? Some brothers that say I can't just read the scripture and then understand and learn. Some brothers that say that. Some brothers that say I can't just watch a video and then learn from the video right off the bat. Some people don't understand. Some people don't have that same cognitive function as other brothers and sisters do. Other people learn as we all learn differently, right? So one way you will have is by your behavior, which is mainly by external influence, right? And the exploration of day to day, avoiding pain, subconsciously avoiding fear, right? And it says repetitions and reward. So your external influence and your day to day will affect your behavior, right? So the way you learn is based off of your behavior. So give me one second. Give me one second. Right, Slakia. The way you learn is based off your behavior and your day-to-day actions. So that's some people. Some people, what you know is based off of what you've seen. A lot, I mean, and that'll trip you up because a lot of people think about faith and they'll lack faith with this. They'll lack with faith because, oh, I never seen this, it's not it. Or I never seen this, I never learned that, it's not it. So people lack faith with this idea, right? So your external influence, it says in subconsciously avoiding fear. Because in my life, let's say I was a football player, and I know every time I play somebody of this height, or I play as somebody every time of this size, I end up getting hurt. Or every time I play to this certain type of effort, I get hurt, or whatever it may be. Right? So a lot of people are limited in things in life because they limit their mind to never be able to achieve past the capacity of their mind, type of thing. To whereas though a lot of people will avoid fear and you will strictly rely on repetition and the reward from your repetition from those behaviors. So a lot of people will learn from those behaviors, right? So boom, if I have good behavior and it leads to me being in the spirit, meaning I'm allowed to read, pray, fast, and repent, and do all of those things that I'm expected to do. You understand that? That's me learning from my behavior. And what you're gonna understand through all these theories that we go through, it's all going to tie into the scriptures, right? So after we go through these theories and we're going to go to the precepts and show you how these things play out in the Bible. Because sometimes when we read the Bible, we're not able to see, oh, yeah, I was just doing that. Oh man, maybe that does explain how this happened in my life. Or maybe this does explain or whatever is going on right now, right? Because these theories of learning and scholarship that we're going to go through is going to be explained and showed in the scriptures. So that's behavior, right? Number two, you have cognitiveness. So it's your spiritual influence, your choice making, your core understanding, sometimes your common sense, and your growth from your foundation. Some people, you come into the truth, learn a Deuteronomy 28 breakdown. And from that point on, the thing that you know is just the thing that you've actually learned. You rely on your common sense. Some people have that, right? Some people don't have common sense. People say in the world common sense ain't common, which is true. But those people that they always kind of know. It's just common. It's common to be have known. That's the way people learn from the common sense, right? People that say, "Oh, okay, boom. If I can't buy, sell, and cook on the Sabbath day, but I found out that oh, okay, the first day of the feast of dedication or the first day of the feast of tabernacles is also considered a Sabbath day. Maybe I can't cook on those days." That's you letting your mind, you understand that, use rely on common sense. That's you letting your mind rely on something, knowledge here, and you're just applying it here. Some people learn from that, right? Some people learn from that. I learned from a Deuteronomy 28 breakdown. If I don't obey the Most High God, right? I'm gonna keep using Deuteronomy 28 breakdown as an example for this one, for this theory, right? If I learn the Deuteronomy 28, if I don't obey the Most High God, His commandments, I'm going to get curses. Guess what? I'm not going to go through those curses. You don't know how it's and byways. You break that down to some people, they'll understand it and they'll be like, oh, you're right. I never thought of it that way. Some people, they'll say, oh, okay. And then walk off, right? Some people don't understand it the same way. I mean, I've seen it thousands of times. I tell you, listen, if we don't obey the Most High God, go through curses. Here are the curses, and hey, you get away from the curses by obeying the Most High God. It's either you get it or you don't get it, and that's really where this cognitive so-called theory comes from. It comes from spiritual influence and choice making, your core understanding, your common sense, and where your growth from your foundation. A lot of people learn from their growth, right? At this point in life, I was advancing through the spirit. The Lord was promoting me through the spirit, right? The Lord was allowing me to grow. So maybe I should go back to doing those things. A lot of people learn from those things, and other people don't, right? The next one is constructism. Is when you force feeding or your willingness and your active learning, your motivation, right? So your constructivism is your just willingness, your willingness to learn, right? So this is your motivation. Now, which is probably the biggest part to learning is your motivation to learn. Your motivation to learn is one of the biggest aspects behind learning in general, right? Because I mean, if I don't want to learn, I'm not going to get good grades. If I don't want to learn, I'm not going to keep the commandments, right? And that's why sometimes it's hard to teach to Jake on always and always because you don't want to learn how to serve the most High God. You don't want to learn how to humble yourself in these things, so it's hard to teach brothers and sisters. You don't want to learn how you were wrong in this aspect and you need to be corrected, so you're not going to be corrected. That's why some people can't be corrected because they don't want to learn, right? That's the theory behind constructism. So a different aspect behind learning and scholarship is your motivation, like I just said. So you will have something like a stimuli, which is not your outcome, but learning is powerful, right? So sometimes, right, you are motivated to learn just by the action of learning something, right? So for example, when I learned the breakdown of Second Ezra 11 and 12, when I learned the breakdown of Daniel 7, Daniel 12, Daniel 3, or Revelation 10 or Revelation 9 or whatever it may be, any of these breakdowns that you actually learn in deep mystery, how I learned that, nah, I ain't gonna say that. I learned that certain things in the Bible is not necessarily applied in my everyday life, but guess what? It's still there. But you get that satisfaction just from learning it, just from learning it. Most of the times that is with prophecy and things of that nature, right? But when you learn something that acts as motivation, it acts as a catalyst for you to get motivation to continue to learn, right? That gets that motivation for you to continue to learn. You understand that? Now, let's read that again in my notes. It says, that's your stimuli, right? It's not always the outcome of what you learn, but you get motivation just by learning, right? It's a way you can get motivation for you to learn because brothers and sisters are struggle with learning, right? That might seem like something so simple, but it's really not, right? It's really not, right? The action of motivation and learning and things of that nature is not always as simple as it seems, right? It's not always as simple as it seems. Slucky, one second, right? So now you have something called a conditioned stimulus or a conditioned stimuli. All right, and this is going to be an example that I'm using pretty much throughout the whole video. So if I add a response, signals to aid a response, right? So for example, right now, let's say hypothetically speaking, every time I sit down at the table and I go to study, I open up my Bible. I'm sitting down at the table with the Bible in front of me, and I light my incense, and I might play some cool music, and I start to get sleepy. All right. So then you need to add something to this same routine, or you need to add something to this same ritual so you can actually go through what you want to go through. Let me get a real quick precept in Romans chapter 7 to help me explain this, right? Right. This is how you take control over your thought process. This is how you can take control over your own mind, right? So if I'm doing something that I don't want to do, sometimes there's avenues to where as though you can change that because you have to be able to tap into the way that you think, and this is called psychology. But Romans chapter 7 and let me jump to verse number 23. Right, it says, "But I see another law in my members, warring against the law of my mind, and bringing me into captivity to the law of sin, which is in my members." So sometimes you're going to do something. It says, "O wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from the body of this death?" Right. So sometimes you'll do things that you don't want to do, or you'll think things that you don't really want to think. Right. And this really only applies to men and women in the truth, because you have a moral compass. You have a moral sense of thinking to where as though, okay, boom, I should be doing this, I should not be doing this. All right. That's usually people in the truth. Now, when you go down and you sit down to study, or you go down, you sit to do schoolwork, right? You get distracted, you pick up your phone, or you start to fall asleep. You have to add that same stimulus you get from doing that same act to that act, to that same condition scenario. For example, I might be sitting down reading the Bible. I'm just reading the Bible, but I start to get sleepy. But I might be standing up reading the Bible at camp, and guess what? I'm not sleepy. Right, so there's multiple scenarios surrounding that same object or surrounding that same duty that allow me not to get sleepy in different areas. So if I sit down and I study, because remember the topic of this conversation is learning and scholarship. So if I sit down to study and I'm trying to learn something, but I'm not getting it, I'm sitting down at the table, I'm not getting it, I'm not getting it. And I say, you know what? I'm gonna go ask this brother. And then I go out to go ask this brother, and then all of a sudden he read all of the same precepts and I start to get it. There then is something wrong with your study habits. There's then is something wrong with your spiritual mind that's not allowing you to get it and whatever you're going through at that moment, right? So boom, if I'm not getting sleepy when I'm at camp, maybe I need to play a video of camp on the TV while I'm studying. Maybe I need to listen to certain things or listen to a different kind of music or do something different while I am studying. For example, I'll give you an example of myself, right? When I'm teaching other people, I've learned that I don't teach the way I've learned to teach. So if I'm breaking down a precept, I don't always break it down and say, see, the Lord said this. That's why you can't do this and this. That doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for my voice. It doesn't work for my tone, the way I come off. It doesn't work for that. I learned that I have to bring down and be relatable. I have to give life examples. I have to give things I actually go through. So when I'm breaking down Deuteronomy 28, I'm breaking down Romans 7, I'm breaking down how to learn, how to be a scholar. I use examples of things that I go through, right? I'm the one that gets sleepy when I go down to read. I might read something in the scriptures and then ask another brother and he read the same precept. And I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. Why? Because sometimes you have to condition your stimulus. That's what that means. You have to condition your stimulus. So whatever stimulated you to that certain feeling of learning, whatever can stimulated you to that certain condition of being a scholar or actually understanding something or getting certain wisdom, you have to condition that thing to have you redo it. Right. And this is going to help you learn. And these are all keys to learning on a different level. Right. So I also have right? So I have examples of making videos, right? With while driving. That's another example for me. That's why I'll make videos while I'm driving. I came to find out, right? I like to be in the spirit. I want to be in the spirit. I want to read and I want to exhortate. But I found out a lot of times I'm talking to myself. Or a lot of times I'm on the phone with a brother while I'm driving. And I'm always going through the precepts. So what did I start doing? I started making videos while I'm driving, right? All right, I started making videos while I'm driving, right? Teaching while I'm driving. Right? So that's why I started making videos while I was driving. You understand what I'm saying? So I mean that's an example for me. Another example that I wrote down was teaching my wife. Teaching my wife, I found out that every time that we sit down at the table and open the book and we sit across each other, it's not always the most constructive way for us to go over precepts. I learned that she usually learns through experience or she learns off the fly. So if I say something, all right, she's able to apply that better than if we were at the table doing however else it may be. So when you in your life, right, when it comes to motivation and condition stimulus and condition your mind to understand certain things, you may have to change your surroundings. You have to change the ritual. You have to change the usual procedure that you go through when you're trying to learn. And that I accept that you'll be able to receive it more. All right. Ultimately, it's going to be the spirit of the Lord that rests upon you. If you don't got the Holy Spirit, right? If you don't got the Spirit of the Lord, you're not gonna get any of this. You're not gonna get any of this, right? You're not gonna get any of this, right? But to explain it, to be able to learn more, that's what you got to go through, right? Now, you have something called constructivism, like we went through. That's in the scriptures, right? It's used to create an active environment. You have many offices that influence a body. So constructivism is what? Is when you're force feeding and it depends on your willingness to learn, right? That's in the scriptures. You read about in Romans 12 and First Corinthians about how you have many offices in one body. You understand that? So that's constructivism right there in the scriptures, right? That says It says, and it's always evolved around a learner, right? Every movement that you might read about in the Bible with Yahushua, Ezra, Nehemiah, Sirach, the Macedonian Empire with the Maccabees brothers, Moses, Aaron, who else? Joshua, whoever you want to, they were all learners. Joshua learned up under Moses. Paul learned up under Yahushua. Yahushua learned from the Most High God. Ezra and Nehemiah learned from Moses, right? The Maccabees brothers, they learned from Moses as well, getting all the instruction from the law, and they taught each other how to be valiant in war and things like that. So it's always involved around a learner because wisdom has to be passed down. Where we getting our wisdom from in these last days? Not only our elders, but the laws of the Most High God and the Spirit of the Most High God. The Spirit is going to teach us, right? Now, I want to look up this etymology of the word idea. Idea. Right now, let's figure out how to share my screen. I forgot how to do it. I'm gonna share my screen. Right. Uh, uh, bam, bam, bam. There we go. I want to look up the etymology of the word idea. Right. Zoom into this bad boy. This is the etymology of the word idea, because all of these movements being led right off of a learner. A learner, it has multiple ideas, meaning I have ideas that come into my mind that play out in reality. A grown man has ideas that play out into reality to provide opportunity for his household. That's what a grown man is in these last days. A man provides opportunity for your household. All right, my son, he didn't turn 18. Hey, guess what? He need to get a job so he can get on his way out my house. That's opportunity that I'm providing for my son. My wife, hey, guess what? She might bring home groceries, but where is she gonna get the money for the pots and pans at? Guess what? I gotta provide that opportunity for my house. So a learner, a man of the Lord, a man that's learned, and remember, we're gonna get all the precepts. It's gonna make perfect sense. All a man that's learned in the scriptures, a man that is well versed, right? A learned man, a scholar has ideas that play out into reality, right? And like I said, all of these movements, all of the key men in the scriptures were learners. John the Revelator, I mean, shoot, you can say he learned from angels. Every time you read a book in the Revelation, you say, what? I looked and I saw. I was in the spirit. I was in the trance. John the Revelator, man, John the Revelator was taught by the angels, right? Daniel, he was very, 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 very wise man. Ezekiel, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Jonah, all these men, they were learned men, right? So this is the etymology of an idea. It says an architect, so like an archetype, a concept of a thing in the mind of God. See that? So see that? So the etymology of the word idea goes back to a concept and a thing in the mind of God. It says from Latin idea, right? Platonic idea, archetype, work of philosophy, the word Creole, Greek, whatever, and the idea taken from the Greek, whatever. It says form the look of a thing, a kind, sort, nature, mode, fashion, a class, kind, sort, species, idea from pi, whatever. Right? So, meaning what? It all comes back to something that is planted in your mind that plays out into reality, but it's in the mind of God. All right? So, let's get into these precepts, right? Let's get into these precepts about how when you have an idea, yeah, all your ideas should be based off of the precepts. I'm going to start with that one in Proverbs 16 and 13. Right? Commit that word. I ain't going to quote it. Let's get it in Proverbs 16 and 13, right? 16 and 3. It's lucky. Proverbs chapter 16 and verse 3. All right, so hey, guess what? It's cool to be smart, man. It's cool to be smart. It's cool to actually know something. Right? Every time you open your mouth, the scriptures say, hey, a man's wisdom is known in his speech. Right? So every time you open your mouth, what are you talking about, man? What are you talking about? Every time we talk, are you talking about getting drunk? Right? Every time you talk, are you talking about folly and vanity? Every time you open your mouth, what are you talking about? You want to examine these things. Let's go to Proverbs 16 and let's read verse number 3 to start off. So it says, commit thy works unto the Lord, and thy thoughts shall be established. Right? So you commit your works unto the Lord, then your thoughts are going to be established. So you come up with that great idea. Damn, maybe if I did this, this will help me with this spirit I've been dealing with. Oh, what precept is that? Bam, there you go, right there. I was right all along. Because it's like it's not your idea. The Lord put that idea in your mind from something that was already written. Right? Because remember, predestination is in the Bible, and we're nothing but dust and ashes. Everything that we go through, everything that we say, was already predetermined by the Most High God that we was gonna say and we was gonna think of. So we really ain't nothing. We don't have no brand new ideas. Remember, nothing is new under the sun, right? But the point is, when you do get an idea of how you can do something better, when you get an idea of how you can move a little bit different to provide for your family, you can move a little bit different to provide and add substance into yourself, right? It has to be based off of the precepts. Isaiah 29. It's like it. Isaiah 28. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 28, right? Isaiah chapter 28, and we're going to start at verse number 9, right? This is how to learn, right? So in the beginning half of this video, for the past 20 minutes, you have various examples on how people learn. You may learn from your day-to-day basis, right, which is your behavior. You may learn from your spiritual influence and your choice making, right? How should I make this choice? How should I make this choice? That's also called opportunity cost, right? Okay, boom, if I go ahead and I do this, is it really worth it if I go ahead and I do this? Right, that's your choice making, right? So I might learn from my day-to-day basis. I might learn from my choice making, or I might learn from constructivism, right? I know I have to do this. I'm going to go and do it. What are better ways I can do this? I can use this and I can use this. So it's different ways and different avenues that people do learn, which is all forced and driven by motivation. Different ways you can motivate yourself. You have conditioned stimulus. You have conditioned stimuli, right? Actually adding things to your environment to help you want to learn certain things. Because sometimes it's not always the act of what you learned, but it's the act of learning that gets you intrigued to keep going and pushing forward, right? So Isaiah 28, and let's start at verse number 9. It says, whom shall he teach knowledge? And whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast. For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little. For with stammering lips and another tongue will he speak to this people, to whom he said, this is the rest wherewith ye may cause the weary to rest. And this is the refreshing, yet they would not hear. But the word of the Lord was unto them, precept upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little and there a little, and that they might go and fall backward and be broken and snared and taken. Right? So who is the Most High going to teach wisdom, instruction, knowledge, and understanding? Who is he going to teach these things? People that can actually understand is precept upon precept, line upon line. People who can actually understand it's more than that. Because you might teach me something, and yeah, you went precept upon precept, but guess what? It don't make sense, right? That's why every time I teach, I say, "You understand? Do you follow?" Right? Because I could be going precept upon precept, and me teaching it, of course, it makes sense in my mind because I'm explaining it. Every time you're explaining something, doesn't automatically means it makes sense. It making sense is not linear with something being correct. Just because something makes sense don't mean just because something is correct don't mean it makes sense. And that's where you get into the art of being an actual teacher, right? But it has to be precept upon precept to whereas though that's how the Most High will actually teach you. You have to piece it together to whereas though is what? It's a puzzle. And that's why I said that constructivism is used in the Bible, right? Because it's used to create an active environment, right? The way I understand something is not going to be the way you understand something. That's why we're going over a video like this, Nehemiah 8, right? Because it's used to create a constructive environment. And ultimately, that's the way we was created as human beings, right? The way I learn, the way I digest, the way I move, the way, you know what I'm saying? The way I move in life is not going to be the same way you do it, right? And that's just how we was created through the Spirit, right? I mean, I'm happy I'm created like that. I don't want to be the same as Joel. I don't want to be the same as Greg. I don't want to be the same as Bakash or someone. I don't want to be the same as you brothers. You brothers are unique. I'm unique. I don't want to be you brothers, right? I want to be me, right? And the way I learn and the way I teach is different than the way that Brother Bakash may learn and teach. So different than the way that Brother Yoel may learn and teach. You understand that, right? So that's why we have videos like this and we have to go through precept upon precept. Nehemiah chapter 8, and I'm going to read verse 2. It says, and Ezra, the priest, brought the law before the congregation, both men and women, and all that, it says, and all that could hear with understanding upon the first day of the 7th month. Right? So to be able to hear with understanding, that's not just something that you just pass by, right? You have to be able to learn with you have to be able to hear. I jumped the gun. You have to be able to hear with understanding, meaning you're able to comprehensively and effectively learn. You have to effectively learn in this truth. A lot of men don't effectively learn. A brother might be correcting me from something that I'm doing wrong. My wife might be correcting me from something I'm doing wrong. If I can't effectively and actively listen, I can't effectively and actively learn and digest these things, you're not going to be fruitful, right? If I broke something down wrong and a brother is teaching me a breakdown or whatever it may be, if I can't take it goes into your brain and then your brain mix it up and then you spit out the understanding. That's literally how it goes. But that mixing it up process is different for each brother. You might be teaching me a lesson and I think about something that I went through or that I've been through. And then that helps me understand where we're going. You might teach me that's behavior. You might teach me a lesson and I think about, oh, yeah, that's why I do this, or that's why I think this way, or that's why this makes sense. Or you teach me this and that's why that makes this sense. That's why this makes sense this way. That's why that makes sense this way. Right? That's cognitiveness. I mean, I'm using my cognitive mind to think about, oh, that will line up with that, that will line up with that. And it all goes back to the scriptures. Right? Or you might teach me this and I say, oh, okay, boom, I gotta do this. That means I gotta do that. Oh, I gotta do this. That means I do this way. That's constructivism. Meaning you're force feeding it and it all is based off of my willingness to do what I am learning. Right? So these men during the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, when you read it, he was gathering learned men and women, that meaning they were able to hear it and receive it and regurgitate it with understanding. Like a conversation, we're going to get into in my next breakdown, right? But I'm going to jump the gun anyway. A conversation, we're talking, but as I'm receiving what you're saying, I'm coming up with a response. Is it always a debate? Is it always a argument? Is it always a argument? No. Sometimes I'm responding to what you're saying cognitively. All right, and that's cognitiveness in the way that you learn, right? Let's go to Psalm chapter 94 and verse number 12. All right, so this is the book of Psalm chapter 94 and verse number 12. All right, it says, blessed is the man whom thou hold on, that's not what I want. You know, 199, Slacky, my handwriting all over the place. I'm gonna skip that precept. Slacky, my handwriting all over the place. But let's go to First Ezra, I believe. No, yeah, that's what I wanted. I wanted Psalm 94 and verse 12. That's what I wanted. So it says, blessed is the man whom thou chastenest, right? O Lord, and teaches him out of thy law. Like I said earlier, a lot of things that we do learn, the foundation is the law, right? Outside of you coming to this truth off of Yahushua calling you, and you find that faith in Yahushua, your learning and your understanding from that point on is based off of the law. Everything is going to be based off the law from that point moving forward. It's based off of the law. You understand that? So the scriptures say, blessed is the man who is chastenest, O Lord, and teach him out of thy law. Because I read the law and I learn, I can't hate my brother or whatever it may be, but I learn why. A lot of people don't understand. You read about interest in the law. You can read about law enforcement in the law. Right? If somebody steals, what you got to do. You can learn about judging in the law. You can learn about agriculture in the law, anthropology in the law, archaeology in the law, how to crop, how to hunt. You can, all kinds of things in the law. Sometimes people overlook that, right? But let's go to another precept, man. First Esdras. right? First Esdras, chapter 8, verse 41. Right? First Esdras, chapter 8, and verse number 41. Right? First Esdras, chapter 8, and verse number 41. And it reads, "And these I gathered together to the river called Dares, where we pitched our tents 3 days, and I surveyed them. But when I had found there none of the priests and Levites, then sent I unto Eleazar and Leduel and Mesman and Athanan and Mamas and Jorbias and Nathan and Unathan and Zecharias and Mesolomon, principal men, and learned." So remember, Esdras is the same man as Ezra, and during the time of Nehemiah. So unto them principal men and learn. What does it mean to be a principal man? Let's look that up. Right? What does it mean to be a principal man? Let's see what Google says. Let's see what Google says. All right, let's share the screen. Let's go ahead and get into this. It says principal men and learned. Right? Let's see what we got going on. Right? Meaning able to follow a principle. Right? So principal men. Right? It's following. It says acts with integrity and honesty, with a strong sense of fairness, justice, and respect for the dignity of individual, groups, and communities. Right? Example of being principled. Always behaving in an honest and moral way. And that's what the law teaches you. That's what the law of the Most High God teaches you. The law of the Most High God teaches you to be honest and morally correct. Because the law that's if you wanted to make a synopsis of what the law teaches you, it teaches you to be honest and morally correct. Right? It says, what is a principle based? A principle, person of principle means someone who is faithfully follows their principle or a set of principles rather than, I like this one, rather than abandoning them with convenience. Right? I like this one. Right? Someone who follows their principle or a set of principles, which is AKA the law. What is our set of principles in this truth? It's the scriptures. It's Yahweh Shai. It's the law. It's the word of God. That's our principles. So somebody who faithfully follows their principle or set of principles rather than abandoning them when convenient. Right? That's a principle, man. That's mighty right there. That's a mighty definition right there from philosophynow.org. Right? Who would have thought? Philosophynow.org. That's a mighty definition right there. Right? Why? Because that's what we should be desiring to, chase after in this truth. Right? You want to be able to follow your principle, right, rather than abandoning them when convenient. Right? That's a principled man and a learned man. That's an attribute of a learned man. Right? That's an attribute of a learned man. He follows his principles. He doesn't abandon them when convenient. All right. So do you use the law of God whenever it's convenient? Do you hop in the spirit on the Sabbath day and the Sabbath day only? Or you on the phone with a brother? You just got done talking to one yo, like, yeah, what it is, my name, yeah, shit, telling that bullshit. And then hold on, my brother calling me. Shalom, most high in Christ bless. Is that true? Is that true? Right? Abandoning them when convenient? Because you're not a principled man, and ultimately it goes back to what? Not being a learned man. Right? No learned man is going to be dishonest with himself. Surely a learned man is not going to be dishonest with himself. Right? Right? A learned man follows his principles not only when they are convenient. I'll read that one more time at First Esdras, chapter 8, and verse number 44. It says, and Nathan and Miamis and Jorbias and Nathan and Unathan and Zecharias and Solomon, principal men, and learn. Right? So principal men and learn is who Ezra the learned man and Nehemiah the mighty man were actually looking for to actually help profit the building of the temple and the ministry. Let's go to Ezra 7 and 25, man. All right, let's go to Ezra 7 and 25. All right. Principal men used to build the temple of the Most High God. Ezra 7 verse 25. It says, and thou Ezra, after the wisdom of thy God that is in thine hand, set magistrates and judges which may judge all the people that are beyond the river, all such as know the laws of thy God, and teach ye them that know them not. And whosoever will not do the king, Salaki, hold on, I missed over a whole part. It says, all such as know the laws of thy God, and teach ye them that know them not. Right? So you have to be a learned man in order to be able to teach. So during this time of Ezra and Nehemiah and them, Ezra was learned enough that he can send other learned men to go and do certain things, man. So that just goes to show you how wise certain men was, like Moses, Ezra, Nehemiah, Paul, Peter. Peter was a very wise man. If anybody knew the scriptures, it was Peter, man, the head of the church, right? The spokesman of the church, the brand ambassador of the Israelite church, right? It was Peter that knew these things, and he was able to do these things. You follow, right? Let's get another precept in the book of Psalm 119 and 18. Right, let's go to Psalm 119 and 18 about how important the law actually is. Right, Psalm chapter 119 and verse number 18. It says, open thou mine eyes that I may behold wondrous things out of thy law. Right, so the law is really what teaches you, and to where as though you get this learn. Earlier I gave all of these examples about stimuli and stimulus and learning this and learning that. That's all based around the law, because you can't do nothing if it's a sin, right? Because remember, we're dead to sin. Sin is dead. That's out the window, right? But the point is, how can we do anything, right, except it be for the law? So the law is going to teach you all kinds of things, and that's a prayer that we have to include in our prayers. Literally on this Day of Atonement, you should be including in your prayers, right, that he can teach you wondrous things out of the law, right? Because there's things in the law that, yeah, if I'm gonna be honest, I'll speak for myself. If somebody asks me about a question that was in the law and I couldn't answer, I'd be embarrassed. If somebody asks me, according to the law, what do I do when X, Y, Z? If I can't answer, that's extremely embarrassing. You mean to tell me I'm an Israelite and I don't know the laws of the Most High God? You follow? So that goes to show you how important these laws of the Most High God are. One more in Luke 10 and 25. Right? One more in Luke 10 and 25 about how important the law is in Luke 10 and 25. Right? How important the law is. Let's go to the book of Luke, chapter 10, and verse number 25. Right? It says, and behold, a certain lawyer stood up and tempted him, saying, Master, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? And he said unto them, what is written in the law? How readest thou? So the whole point of us even, we can go back, the whole point of us even keeping the Day of Atonement, the whole point of us even listening to me speak, the whole point of us even reading the Bible, the whole point in us even having a mindset to do the things we know is right, us having a mindset to even try our best, you understand that, to make right choices. For what? For the kingdom of heaven. And you have some brothers that go harder than other brothers. You have some sisters that go harder than other sisters, right? To get to that kingdom of heaven. But it's all based off of what? The law. The laws of the Most High God. It's all based off of the laws of the Most High God, right? One brother, he might hold camp 5 days a week. I might hold camp 2 days a week. The reason why we do that is all based off of what? The laws of the Most High God, right? But what if he holding camp, but he's smoking blunts at camp 5 days a week, right? But I hold camp 3 days a week. Who's gonna be more diligent? The brother that's not offending the law. You understand that, right? So that's also where you can learn from your day-to-day basis, right? So that's two aspects of learning. Aspects of learning, number one, you learn from the law. You learn from the law. A lot of brothers, they don't turn to the law because it's not Sirach. A lot of brothers don't turn to the law because it's not Proverbs. A lot of brothers don't turn to the law because it's not the gospel or Psalms. No, you can learn a lot from the law, man. You actually got to read it and actually get in there and actually, learn it. I was just going into the law a few minutes ago with the brother that's on live, man. Literally, you follow. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you can learn in the law that apply to your daily life. That aspect number two of learning is from your day-to-day life. And me personally, this is how I learn. This is why I like to travel so much, because when I travel and I go different places, this gives me different talking points. This gives me different opportunities and availability to teach on certain things I wouldn't be able to if I didn't go there. I can't speak on how Republicans in Texas are if I've never been there. And them devils is proud, right? A brother that live in Cali can't speak on how proud Democrats are in New York. He can only, all he knows is what he look up online and what he see on TV. But till you actually go there, you see that them man, I'm trying to watch my language, but them Edomites is something else, right? New York is horrible. Why? I know that because I've been there. So that's the way that I learn. I learn by seeing things, and I learn by my day-to-day actions. That's the way I learn. And let's go to it. Let's go to Job 35 and 10. Job chapter 35 verse 10. Right? Job chapter 35 and verse 10. Slack verse 11. Job chapter 35 verse 11. It says, "Who teacheth us more than the beasts of the earth, and maketh us wiser than the fowls of heaven." Right? So, who taught us more than the beast? The Most High God did. And how did he do it? Through the law. But guess what? Even the beasts of the earth and the fowls of heaven can teach you at the same time. Right? You learn from nature that it's off to be a homosexual. Right? And here it goes, my life going to shut down. Right? You'll learn from nature that it's off to do certain things that goes against the Most High God. I'll say that as a general term. Right? You learn it. You don't see a male lion with another male lion. You don't see a female lion with another female lion in sexual intercourse. You don't see that. Right? You don't see a turtle stealing something from a damn fish. All right? Even though, it's like, I'll say this. You don't see a turtle stealing something from a lizard. Right? They're the same kind, they're the same kin, but it might be from a different tribe. They don't steal from each other. Right? But you might see an eagle steal from a fish, which is spiritual, right? You might see an eagle in the sky steal from a fish, man, which is spiritual. But you learn, this is how you can learn things. You step outside and you see how you feel that day. That's gonna let you know a lot about the day that you about to have. If I wake up in the morning, if I don't make my bed, it's gonna let me know a lot about how my day about to go. I woke up late, I'm feeling slothful, I couldn't make up my bed, right? I'm not constructively thinking positively. I'm not coming up with positive affirmations in my mind to keep me going, right? That's gonna let you know. If I wake up in the morning late and I'm rushing out and I get in the car, I'm rushing, I might scroll through social media while I'm riding, that's gonna let you know a lot about that day that you're about to have. You're not gonna be in the spirit like that. You understand what I'm saying? So this is how your day-to-day basis can teach you a lot. Let's get another preset in Sirach 34, right? About what I was saying about traveling, right? And this is one of my favorite precepts, right? Sirach chapter 34, and almost verse number 9. It says, "A man that hath traveled knoweth many things, and he that hath much experience will declare wisdom." All right, so if I've never been to Cincinnati, I can't tell you how Bengals fans are. All right, I've never been there. I know what I see online, I know what I see on TV, but I've never been there. But a man that travels, he has much experience, and experience teaches what? Patience. Experience. Let's look up the etymology. What is the word? Let's look up the definition of experience. All right. All right. All right. Because experience is how learned you are. Experience equates to your learned capability. Right. If I never experienced pain before, I don't know. That means I'm ignorant of pain. Right. So when you travel, damn ass. What the hell going on? Experience. Observation as the source of knowledge. Right. So when you travel, that's how you're getting much more knowledge. You travel, that's how you're getting much more. That's how you're adding to yourself wisdom. You're adding to yourself opportunity to be learned. Right. And that's why you implement that motivation and that stimulus and all those other things that we learned about. Brothers got to implement this into their actual life. Brothers actually got to implement this into their actual life, man. Like if you literally find it hard for you to learn certain things by yourself and implement what we're going over in this video, right? Implement the theory of conditioned stimulus. Implement the theory of all the things that we're going through in this video, and it's gonna help you, right? The scriptures say experience, right, is gonna select it. It says select what verse was we at? Verse number 11, right? Select it. Verse number Sirach 34 and 9. It says a man that have traveled, a man that have traveled knoweth many things, right? So you know a lot when you travel, right? You just know a lot, right? Because you get that experience. And then when you read on in the verse, it says, and he that hath much experience will declare wisdom. It says, he that have no experience knoweth little, right? It says, you know little. It says, but he that hath traveled is full of prudence, right? Because I mean, you traveling, you get on the air. I mean, nowadays, you in the airport, you gotta learn how to be patient. You gotta learn how to deal with other people. You actually, you know where I come from. When you travel, you learn how to deal with new things as they come, right? Because I've never been to Orlando, because I've never been to Texas, because I've never been to Virginia, because I've never been to Pittsburgh or whatever it may be because I've never been to Spain. If I've never been to the Caribbean, St. Thomas, so all these places I've actually been. If I've never been those places, I never learned how to deal with patience, how to deal with things as they come in those places, right? If I never, I'm from Baltimore. Let's say I was from DC and I never been to Baltimore. When I travel to Baltimore, I'll learn how to deal with the problems and the situations as they come when I travel to that place. That's how you explain that experience that you get when you travel. When you travel, that's how you explain that experience that you get when you do different things. Right? If I never tried to fast multiple times a week, right? When I actually go out and I do it, right? That actually shows me, oh, I've gained that experience, that knowledge of how to deal with it when I go through it. And that man, man, that prudence will teach you a lot. Right? And Sirach, what's wrong with my damn Bible, man? Sirach 34 and verse number 10. He that have no experience knoweth little, but he that travel is full of prudence. Right? When I travel, verse number 11, Sirach 34. When I travel, I saw many things, and I understand more than I can express. Right? So you understand more than you can express because you learn so much. So brothers gotta travel. Brothers gotta travel, man. Traveling and always just going to work, going to the stove, right? Brothers got to travel. Brothers got to try their best to implement that into their life. That's why I tell the brothers all the time, ain't no time to be sitting on your behind being broke, man. Right? If you want wisdom, if you want to learn, if you want to be smart, scripture say you get experience, you gotta travel, right? You gotta get up, you gotta meet people, you gotta get up and make opportunity for yourself. Ain't no time to be sitting on my behind creating opportunity for my household as a man. As a woman, ain't no time for me to be sitting on my behind. You understand that? Not providing and helping my head or helping myself if I'm unmarried, right? Helping myself or if I am married, helping my head create these opportunities so we can actually get that wisdom in our household, so we can get that knowledge in our household. You follow? Because I mean, if I learn something, you best believe my wife won't know it. My wife learned something, best believe I'm gonna know it. All right, that's us moving as as one spirit. But let's go to the next precept. In Luke 15 and 11. Now, in Luke 15 and 11, I'm not going to break down this whole thing, but I want to touch on this point about traveling, right? About traveling, right? Luke 15 and 11. All right, so this is the book of Luke, chapter 15, and I'm going to start at verse number 11, right? I'm not going to break down this whole thing, but it says, and he said, a certain man had two sons. And the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of goods that falleth to me. And he divided them and divided him his living. This is a parable about something completely different. I am reading it literally to get a certain point. This is a parable of the northern and southern kingdom of Israel. But we're reading it literal right now so I can get a certain point about the trouble. Verse number 13. It says, and not many days after the younger son gathered all together and took his journey into a far country, and there wasted his substance with riotous living. With riotous living. So guess what? He actually got imputed certain things, right? And then he took it and he traveled with it. He took it and he traveled with it. So guess what? This son, out of the two sons, his father gave him something. You understand that? His father gave him something, and then he actually went to a far country. You understand that? He went to a far country. But guess what? It said he spoiled it with a riotous living. He spoiled it with riotous living. What does that mean? Meaning you're not applying, man. What does that mean? What does that mean? They're going spoiled it with riotous living, right? Let's get that. What does that mean? He put spoiled it with riotous living. That means he wasn't being a principal man, right? I might as well add that to the topic, to the joint. Being a principal man, man, right? A principal man, someone who faithfully follows their principle or some of the principles rather than abandoning them when convenient, man, right? So let me read that again in Luke chapter 15 and verse number 13. And not many days after the younger son had gathered all together and took his journey into a far country, and there wasted his substance with the riotous living. Meaning, oh no. All right. And my brother's looking at my email. Hope y'all couldn't see that. Damn, email popped out of nowhere. All right, sluck. Right. Anyways, you wasted with riotous living. Meaning when you get wisdom, when you get instruction, when you get these keys to how to learn, you understand that you want to know how you can do better, right? With it. Right. But the point is he did travel, but guess what? He wasted it while riotous living. Riotous living. Right. Read on, verse 14. Luke 15:14. It says, and when he had spent all there, rose a mighty famine in that land, and he begat to be in want. And he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country, and he sent him into the fields of to feed swine. Now, let's slow down for a second, right? So, boom, he got this wisdom, right? He got this learning, he got this knowledge, he got this experience, and then he went to travel to take it to somewhere else. And then he spoiled it by riotous living. And then he came back to try to make it better. But by him trying to make it better, right? This is a parable, remember? By him trying to make it better, right? He joined himself with the citizens of that country. He tried to blend in with this society. He tried to make it seem like he was just of this stock, not like he was just something else, right? Right? He tried to make it seem like he was a part of that country to where though he did get spoiled, right? That's called what? That's called behavior. He learned from his behavior. Well, he chose an action from his behavior, which is the external influence, which is one of the theories that we went through in learning, right? And when he took it, he tried to go travel with it and multiply it. Guess what? That's him using that cognitiveness because he thought through common sense. Okay, boom. Okay, boom. Yeah, we were slaves. Thought we were slaves a couple hundred years ago, right? But now we're not slaves no more. I'm able to get a credit card and an ID and a driver's license. But if I grow my beard out, I might not be able to go and get that job that I want. So what am I going to do? Let me shave my beard so I can go get that job. No justification. No justification. No justification at all. You just do what you want to do. That's how you can use these same learning theories and be off. That's how we had to touch on the law for the time that we touched on the law from, because the wisdom comes from the law. So this younger son in which you will learn is Israel. Let's go to Hosea. Let's go to Hosea. Let's go to Hosea 4:17. So let's go to Hosea 4:17 to show y'all that this younger brother is a nation of Israel, right? Hosea 4:17. So but that's how that happens. You might get a little bit. You might get the knowledge of being an Israelite, but then you learn it ain't really no sin if the law not involved. Over time, I can't be really over righteous. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna kind of make my way, do what I gotta do, and you end up living a life of a lie. You end up living a life of sin. Because why? Because you didn't justify those things based upon the law, right? So then, when you are learning new things and you are imputed things into your knowledge, you understand that you have to add different avenues so you can learn correctly. That's why these theories are involved. That's why you have motivation and stimulus and all these other things that I talk about. You have these things involved so you can learn correctly, and learn efficiently. All right, I'm bringing brothers. Brother, I don't get the best. I didn't get the best grades in school. Brothers didn't get the best grades in school. All Esau teach you how to do is to remember. All right. Okay. Boom. You got a test on Friday. Know this material. Take the test. In school, I didn't learn how to not be slothful. In school, I didn't learn how to not procrastinate. In school, I didn't learn how to not be an asshole. Right? I didn't learn those things in school. Right? And when you come into the knowledge of the scriptures, it teaches you all of that. And you also learn practical knowledge in the scriptures as well. So I mean, that's why the Most High is your father. You learn things from the Father, right? And it's chiefly from where? The law. But Hosea 4:17 of being learned in scholarship, right? Learning and scholarship. Hosea 4:17. Ephraim is joined to idols, let him alone. Right? So Ephraim is symbolic of to what? The northern kingdom. I'm gonna start at verse 16. Hosea 4:16. For Israel slideth back as a backsliding heifer. Now the Lord will feed them as a lamb in a large place. Ephraim is joined to idols, let him alone. Okay, so Ephraim, which is symbolic unto the northern kingdom, is really what Luke, the 15th chapter, is going into with the prodigal son. Because Ephraim is eventually going to then join back to the Most High God after the tents of Judah in the southern kingdom repent first. All of the other stuff is what the chapter is going into. But the point is how this younger son, he took the wisdom. Come on, what's going on? I'm blurring my face out, all right? He took the wisdom, he took it elsewhere where he wasn't supposed to, and through cognitive thinking and through cognitive learning, he chose an avenue that wasn't right. Why? Because he didn't apply the law. Day-to-day basis, okay, boom. If I wake up and I realize I got all this money, if I wake up and I realize I got all these opportunities, right? Because remember, scriptures say money is a defense. Money is an opportunity. It just grants you opportunity. If I wake up and I realize I got all this opportunity, right? I got all this defense for myself, right? Cognitively, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and go do that. Feel good, no, ain't nothing wrong with it. But you never justified it of the law. Then you learn that, and that becomes what? Experience, which is equal to knowledge, as we actually already found out, right? We get another precept in the book of 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 21, right? 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse number 21 says, if a man therefore purge himself from these, he shall be a vessel of honor, sanctified and meet for his master's use, and prepared unto every good work. Because you have to be purged, is what you got to understand. We're not born in this thing correct. People actually underestimate how much your worldly mind play on your actions that you do take, right? Like from the time that you came that you were in the world, from the time you were in the world till you came up in this truth, all of those years that you had unknowingly rehearsing wicked acts and wicked deeds, you understand that plays a lot in this truth. So yeah, it's got to be justified on the law, but the point is you're supposed to purge these things. Like I said a couple minutes ago, in Esau school system, we don't learn the same way you learn in the truth. Me personally, when I came into the truth and I was learning these precepts, and I've always wanted to teach. I was learning how to teach myself how to teach. I was learning from other men how to teach. I can't sit down at a table with incense and with my book open and my notebook and just study. That's not studying for me. Studying is me reading. Studying is me just looking at my notebook no matter where I am. Like I told y'all earlier, that's why I was making videos in the car, because that's when I'm able to really think and constructively think and to come up with brilliant, I mean, not brilliant, I did cheat my own horn, but to come up with ideas like when I'm driving, because that's when it's most edifying. Because this was that example of a conditioned stimulus. If you put yourself in a different situation but exercise the same ritual, you'll get a different outcome, right? If I'm talking on the phone with my brother while I'm driving, and I notice I'm always in the spirit, I always want to read, I always want to exhortate, right? Versus if I'm just at home, I'd rather talk about the NFL games or something like that. Guess what? Maybe I should read the actual Bible and make a video while I'm driving to make a greater opportunity of that time. You understand what I'm saying? Versus then when I do get in the house, I can go ahead and do that, right? You got to understand these things. Sometimes you got to use a different conditioned stimulus in different areas to force feed to literally create a certain avenue response, right? You want to be in the spirit, create the spirit and create things around you that's going to make you stay in the spirit. That's why the scriptures say, if their right hand offended, cut it off. For it's better for your body to perish than for you to die with your body, with your perished body. Right? So sometimes if I'm trying to do something, I know I got to do it. I need to create that environment around me so I can. There's no way I can't do it. You want to literally make it impossible for the spiritual demon Satan to come in, right? If I know I'm getting tripped up on my phone every time I see Shorty, she got no pants on, she doing some crazy stuff on Instagram, I get out the spirit. I know, and guess what? I'm about to go to my phone provider and get me a, you know, hello, all right, right. The real ones know what that is. That's that flip phone, right? Everybody know about the flip phone, right? Kind of whip that joint out. Oh, you got to do this part. I forgot that. You got to whip that joint out, right? Whip the antenna up. You know what I mean? And talk on the phone. Everybody don't know about that. The point is, when you want to create a certain response out of yourself, you need to make sure that opportunity is around you. That's called a conditioned stimulus within your mind. Let's get a different precept. In the book of Second Ezra, chapter 4, verse 23, about how you learn on the day-to-day basis. Second Ezra, chapter 4, and verse number 23. It says, "For it was not my mind to be curious of the high things, but of such as pass by us daily." All right, so the thing that you learn and the thing that you impute into your brain, into your knowledge, is the things that pass by you daily, right? And what do we see daily? Wherefore Israel is given up as a reproach to the heathen, right? You see Jake wear pants off they behind. They think it's cool. Eve walk around shameless with blonde hair and all kinds of stuff, stuff that's not natural, shameless. You understand what I'm saying? Israel's getting up to reproach to the heathen, and what caused the people whom thou hast loved is given over unto ungodly nations, and why the law of our forefathers is brought to naught, and the written covenants come to none effect, because nobody pays attention to the laws of the Most High God. That's why we in. That's what it means when we in captivity. So it's not really my mind to be curious to things that doesn't make it to things that's not important to what's going on right now. It's of my mind to be curious of what's going on day to day. That's how I learn. That's how I avoid sin. That's how I avoid a negativity. Is when I look at my day to day and I look, oh, I did this. Maybe I shouldn't do this. Let me do this way. Right. And that, I mean, you gotta think. You gotta use your damn brain. Right. This is learning and scholarship. Right. Let me get one more precept and I'm gonna close out. Psalm chapter 44 and verse 23. We get like two more precepts. I'm gonna close out. Psalm chapter 44 and verse number 23. Right. Psalm chapter 44 and verse number 23. Right. It says, "Awake, why sleepest thou, O Lord? Arise, cast us not off forever." What does that mean? Is the Lord literally asleep? Is the Lord literally not hearing us? Is the Lord literally ignoring us? No. David is saying, "Arise, O Lord, thou that sleepest." Why? Because when he looks day to day, it just looks as if He not here. It looks as if he got nothing to he not got nothing to help us out with. You understand that? It looks as if he's not alive. He's not helping us. You follow? Right? It says, "Awake, why sleepest thou, O Lord? Arise and cast us not off forever. Wherefore hidest thou thy face and forgettest our affliction and our oppression?" Because that's what we see day in and day out. Oppression. That's what we see. That's what we see day in and day out. So if we seeing this day in and day out oppression, all right, and that's what we see day in and day out, how is our behavior going to reflect that? How's it going to reflect it? By choosing to get rid of that oppression. Literally us in this truth, we have the key to life. Right? We have the spiritual capability to change somebody's mind. Meaning literally, I can change this brother's mind and have him live his life a totally different way. If I do that 144,000 times, the whole life as we know it is gonna be wiped out, and I'm gonna be in the house with my feet kicked up. That's the power that we have in life right now, right? That's what we see today. Today is oppression. So when we actually exercise what I'm teaching today, and we actually manifold it and flip it and make it fit ourselves, we see this day to day. We see oppression day to day. We see wickedness day to day. We see folly day to day. How do we change it? We actually come back to the Most High God. We repent and keep His commandments. It's all based off the law, and then we actually make a change for ourselves, right? So let me look at the one more. I want to look at the etymology of the word learn, and then we're gonna close this joint out. Etymology of the word learn, right? Learn. Etymology of the word learn. Close it out. Close it out. Come on. My joint froze. Okay, come. Right, we're gonna change the screen. Change screen. Close out. So boom, right? So this is the etymology of the word learn. It says to get knowledge, be cultivated, study, read, and it says to think about. Right? To learn is to think about. Right? To learn is to think about. Right? That's deep. To learn is to think about. If you don't think, you don't learn. If you don't use your brain, you ain't gonna learn. That's I mean, you, it might seem so simple, but if you don't think, you don't learn. To get knowledge, to be cultivated, is to study, to read, and to think. All right. We'll get one more precept. We're gonna close this joint out. All right. In Sirach chapter 3 and verse number 22. Sirach chapter 3 and verse 22. Sirach 3 and 22 says, "But what is commanded thee, think thereupon, with reverence, for it is not needful for thee to see with thine eyes the things that are in secret." All right. So whatever is commanded us, we gotta think about. Or whatsoever is commanded us, we gotta think about it, right? Then don't the scripture say we gotta meditate upon the law day and night and don't let these things depart out of our mouth, right? Whatsoever is commanded us, that's what we gotta think about, man. That's deep, right? So to learn and to be a learned man is to think about the thing that's commanded you and how you can apply it better on your day in and day out basis. All right, that's learning and scholarship. Learning how to learn, right? Better avenues for you to effectively learn, and scholarship and be a studied and learned man, right? And with that, I'm gonna close this joint out. Most our willing brothers and sisters are having a continual fervent day of atonement. Brothers can continue to stay in the spirit. how willing brothers and sisters was edified by this video. And with that, I have a thumb. Shalom.